Welcome everyone to this week's Wednesday webinar. Today we are going to be talking about filtering your data within Power BI. Now there's a few ways that you can filter data, and it really just depends on your individual report needs, what you're looking to gather out of it. The first place that you can look at filtering your data is within the query itself. And this is done within the Power Query Editor, and you can choose multiple columns to filter by. You can do basic and advanced filtering methods. And this is helpful when you're connecting to raw data that may have millions and millions of rows, because this is where it's going to limit the amount of data that is pulled. Now, the problems that you can run into with this, if you are looking to have a report where you're comparing multiple things, if you filter it at the query level, you may not have some of the data you want to look at comparing. And we'll take a look at that all in just a moment in the demo. But when you're looking at, say sales transactions or, even job transactions, if you have data that spans multiple years, you may want to filter it down to just the last couple years or a particular time period that you're looking to review and to compare. The other places that you can filter your data is all within the report itself, and it's done on the report canvas when you're creating your Power BI reports. And it can be done at an individual visual level. You can apply it to one or all the pages within a report. And you also can have manual filters, which Power BI refers to as slicers, placed on your report so that end users can filter the data manually. And another thing that we'll be looking at is the auto filtering. So within Power BI, when you select a particular point on a chart or you use a slicer to filter data, all of the visuals on that report filter, on that report page, will filter with that. You can turn this off and on by editing the interactions within your reports. So without further ado, let's get into the demo, because I think that's where you'll really be able to see how this filtering will work. We are going to be using the Power BI desktop, which is available to download for free. Okay, so the first thing that I want to look at is where you will edit at that query level. So to launch the Power Query Editor, you would go up here to the toolbar to edit queries. We're going to go ahead and edit, and it's going to pop up our Power Query Editor. So this has all the different tables that we're pulling together to feed our report. And filtering is going to work very similar to how you filter in Excel when you're working with a table. When you click on any of the drop-down arrows next to a column, you have, first of all, the basic capability for filtering. If you wanted to, you can select just a few off the list. I don't see that used a ton at this query level, but you have the ability to do so if that's something you are interested in. And if you ever filter something you don't want to, the steps are tracked over here under applied steps, and you can just delete out what you last filtered. There are also advanced filtering methods as well. So on a text column, such as this, you can do equals, does not equal, begins and ends, and contains. So if you do have a text column, maybe this is a particular report that you want to have just a single division. You could look at a division column and select one division, or if you want everything that might include the name West in it or something like that, you could use one of these advanced filters within a text column. The number one way that I see filters at the query level are date filters. So here we have a column that is our date of service column. And when you expand this, you always have that basic capability to just select anything from a basic filter. But there also are date and time advanced filters. So the first ones we're going to look down here, year, quarter, month. This is where you can just select, I want to see just this year, next year, last year, whatever it may be. Now, this is helpful if you do want to look at just one single year, but most of the companies that I have seen creating Power BI reports do want to compare year over year data. So maybe they want to look at performance across the last 3 years or across the last 5. Usually, if you have a lot of transactions, I would say just the last 2 to 3 years keep the report performing well. But it's whatever your personal preferences or need for your reporting. There's also ones in here is for not earliest, not latest. In the next, if you select in the next, you can say, next 30 days, next 1 year, whatever you may want it to be. And you can add multiple conditions as well. The most common ones that I see used when we're doing a date and time filter is either after or between. So if we want to look at the last 2 years, so we're just ending here 2019, it's after 1/1/2018. I want to see last year and this year. And my demo data does not fall into that. Another thing that is common is if you select the between, this will already give you 2 rows where it has is after or equal to, and you can select a value, which is either from the drop-down list, or you can enter a particular date that you want yourself. And then is before or equal to. So you could, if you want to, from, let's go ahead and do, we want to see from January 1st, 2018, and we want to see through the end of this year. I don't have any demo data within the last 2 years, but that is how you would enter to see the last 2 years. And that's the most common way that I see things filtered at a query level. Once you would have all your filters set, and again, you can filter multiple columns, go through and do them all if you want, but this is really, again, for report performance to make sure you're only pulling what you actually want to compare. Once you have made all the changes, you close and apply, and those filters then come down to the report itself. So let's go ahead now and look at the filters that you would apply on the report canvas. So here we're looking at a service call demo report that I've created, and we're looking right at the report canvas. And the most common way people add filters is just to an individual visualization. We're going to look specifically at this open calls by technician. And you see that there's a filters tab right here on the desktop. And you can see right now it's showing us the count of the service call and the technician, and they're both selected as all. Now what I want, since I want this chart to just be open calls by technician, I want to add a filter into that will take out any closed calls. So over here on the right-hand side, I have my table fields, and I'm going to pull over status of call right here to the data field on the visual. And it says filters on this visual. And I'm going to change it. You can see how the chart looks right now with Alan in the top spot and 80 calls. And again, you do have, I'm just going to do some basic filtering here, but just to show you, there is basic and advanced filtering. You can filter by the top, and that wouldn't really work so well just between open and close, but maybe you'd have like a document amount, show me the top 5 document amounts. You also have advanced filtering, which is similar with contains, equals, starts with, things like that. But we're just going to do a basic filtering here because there's only 2 options, and I want to see open. So now we can see that the chart changed a little bit. Alan only has 3 open calls. So that's how you can add filters to an individual visual. And you can add more than one. You can always go back and see what filters you already have, and you can continue adding more data fields to the filters. So now let's look at adding it to an entire page or a full report. I have a sales report here we're going to look at. This is, again, just a demo Power BI report that I have. And with no visuals selected, you can see on the filters pane, I have filter on this page and filter on all pages. And we're going to take a look at both of them. But first, let's just look at these pages in total without any filters. You can see our progress to our yearly goal is 80,000. And then on our second tab here, which is just a fun aquarium visual, our biggest fish is for central communications. So let's go ahead and apply a filter. And we're going to say we want to look at one country at a time. So over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to pull country, and we're going to look at filters on this page. And again, I'm just going to do a basic filtering. We're going to go ahead and select Australia. We want to see just Australia sales. And you can see that the visuals changed. We only have 6,000 towards the yearly goal here. But if we go over to the aquarium page, our largest fish is still Central Communications. Now, it's possible that could be an Australian company, but this is looking exactly the same as it was before. So let's go ahead. Let's go back to the main page here. And anytime if you have a filter applied and you want to get rid of it, go ahead and just click the X to remove the filter. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to pull the country to filters on all pages this time. We're going to select Australia again. And you see this page looks the same, you have 6,000 towards the yearly goal. But now if we swap over to the aquarium tab, you can see we have one fish, because we only actually have, we can see one sale there, and it's St. Patrick's Hospital. So that does change the filters on all pages. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the manual filters, the slicers that we talked about. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a demo job cost report that I had. And you can see here I already have a couple of slicers on this report for the customer name and job name. How you pull over and create a slicer, one of two ways. You can select it. The visual is this icon with a funnel next to the table, and you can select that. And let's go ahead and say we want to filter by division. And then you can pull the field directly onto the table or the visual here, or you could pull it into the field section here as well. So now you see I have a filter for division. So if I select commercial, you can see that the visuals change to show me commercial, or if I swap over to industrial, you can see that as well. A cool thing that you can do, you see how all visuals update here, is you can change the interactions to determine whether or not you want a chart to update when you select a certain filter. That can be on slicers itself here, or it could be if you are selecting points within a chart, that can update other things as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select this division slicer. And on the toolbar under Visual Tools, you go to Format, and you want to make sure to turn on Edit Interactions, because this is where you can define whether or not you want a particular visual to update. So you see now each of our visuals has a little chart with a funnel, and that is for filtering, or the little circle with a line through it. That is where you would say, I do not want it to change with the filters. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn off the chart here to change when our filter is selected. And now, if I select commercial or industrial, you can see this chart is remaining the same, even though the other ones are changing. Now you have to do this for each one. So if I still choose something over here on the customer name, that chart is going to update because I haven't changed the interaction for that particular chart. So if I'm on here and I don't want it to update for the customer name, I would go ahead and select none there as well. And now, even when I change customer names, that chart does remain static. It will not update and filter. If for any reason you have this turned off, you need to turn it back on. You just make sure you have the proper visual, the filter selected here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to just select, turn it back on to filter it. We're going to go here. And we're going to turn this back on to filter as well. Now when we make those changes, you can see that the graph will update based on those different filters. Helpful tool if you do have something that you do want to remain static. Maybe it is you want a overall company like total running along the top or the side or somewhere like that, and then you want the ability to filter in data beneath, you could turn off that filtering function on those tops so that always remains, current company total, and then you could have like divisional or branch level things underneath. Again, it's just really how you want to look at the report itself, but that is a neat feature that they have. If you get sick of seeing these little graphs and the little circles, you can just turn off edit interactions and that will go away. So those are the basic ways that you can create filters within your report. It's also helpful to know that you can see what filters are affecting your visuals as well. So like right now in the desktop, we have this filters area here where you can see all the different ones. We're showing all of anticipated markup, all of these different things, all divisions. There's quite a few options that are set up here, and those were just the things that we pulled onto the report face itself. But let's go ahead and take a look at how it looks when you start selecting things. So I'm going back to that service report we looked at previously. And we're going to look at this open service calls. On any visual, there's this little funnel, and usually the upper right-hand side, sometimes they can be in the lower depending on how closely formatted your reports are. But if we go ahead and look at the funnel, we're hovering over it, it tells you about the filters and slicers affecting this visual. So we can see status of the call is open. Awesome, that's a filter that we can see we've applied over here to the right-hand side. If I were to select a division as well, and now we hover over that, we can see, okay, this is the division that's been selected for the status call of open. So sometimes if you're wondering, hey, what's going on? This is looking funny. You can hover over this to see the different filters or slicers that are applied to the visual. This works with the individual visuals and the slicers we've selected. And if we look at the sales report here, any one of these visuals, you can see at that report level, we can see that that visual, oops, there we go, that visual has been affected by filtering it to the country of Australia. So this can be a helpful little thing when you're creating the reports, or if you get too far into a drill down and you're wondering what the heck am I looking at, you can always hover over a visual to see what filters or slicers are affecting it. Now that really is the basics of filtering your reports within Power BI. Does anyone have any current questions? Perfect. Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love to respond to any questions via Power BI. It's such a fun tool. And thank you for spending some of your afternoon with me. Have a great day. Thank you.